Our next question on the show today is from Caitlin in Jonesboro. I'm 32 and was the beneficiary for my parents' accounts. They've both passed away, and I'm not sure whether I should keep the accounts where they are or if I should find a new advisor. What should I consider? Well, thanks, Caitlin, and we do have Caitlin's age, so we kind of have an idea of where she is in her life path, and we can get to that in just a moment. But I think the first thing right off the bat here, there's some emotion involved with this, right? Caitlin is inheriting some money that once belonged to her parents. I think it's important to ask certain questions around that.
Yeah, clearly. And first of all, Caitlin, our condolences to you on losing your parents. That's always a tough thing to deal with from an emotional standpoint and from a financial standpoint, because now you have their assets. And I think one of the first questions that you probably want to ask is, okay, what would mom and dad want me to do with this money? And I think the first key question here, Scott, is whether it is a retirement account or retirement accounts that you are inheriting, or if it is an after-tax or a non-qualified asset that you're inheriting. Caitlin asked about whether she could keep the accounts where they are. Let's talk about that in just a second. But a retirement account is going to have a need for a lot of engagement with a financial advisor to understand the tax implications of what you have under Secure Act and Secure Act 2.0. That really does come into play as a non-spouse beneficiary of that retirement account, or retirement accounts as it may be. So you're going to be able to treat that differently and need to treat that differently and account for that in your taxes as opposed to a non-retirement account. Scott, a non-retirement account is really one of those things that you likely got a step up in cost basis on, meaning that when your parents died, whatever the value of that account was on the date of death, the cost basis, or what you are considered to be principal from a tax standpoint, actually increased to the value that it was on the date of death, not the original purchase price of that asset.
Yeah, so you think about the process of getting those accounts into your name. Let's say it takes a month. Then, in essence, from the date of death, a month later, if you were to sell those investments, there might only be a 1 or 2 or 3% gain on some of those, if that, or there could be losses on that. So you have a significant opportunity to reevaluate what those investments are in and whether they're appropriate for you, and by that be able to not have a serious tax consequence. However, if it is in an IRA or if it was in a 401k and it has been passed on to you, because you are the next generation, and that next generation is defined by the Secure Act as being 10 years or younger than the decedent, then you are going to now be required, I should say, to remove all of those assets over a 10-year period. Now, that doesn't mean you have to take them out 1/10 at a time over the next 10 years. There is going to be a process where you have to have an end date where it is all out over a 10-year time period, and that can be a significant tax burden, especially maybe not for Caitlin at 32, but you think about many people passing away in their 70s and passing on their wealth to their kids who are in their 50s, who are, statistically speaking, in their highest earning years, and what having to take out an additional take out, let's say, $100,000 each year over the next 10 from their parents' accounts. That gets stacked on top of the income they've already earned for that tax year. So if they're in the 22% federal income tax bracket, they could jump to the next one very quickly, very easily.
Very, very significantly. But let's back up for just a second, Scott. Let's talk a little bit about Caitlin and what this money could mean for her. Whether it's retirement money or non-retirement money, Caitlin has some opportunities here at 32. And we don't know the amount of money that is involved here, but even with a small amount of money at 32, this could set you up, Caitlin, for your path to financial independence. And we talk about financial independence all the time here at the Get Ready for the Future show and at GenWealth Financial Advisors, because it is our prime objective for our clients. We want you to be financially independent. What does that mean? It means that work is optional. You don't have to work because you don't have the need for that income coming in, because you can live from your assets. That is something that with the right advice you can get to. Now, with that small commercial about financial independence, let's talk about how Caitlin could potentially get there. Caitlin, let's say that you have $50,000 coming from your parents. And let's assume for right now that you don't have any tax that's due on this money. Maybe it's an after-tax account. At 32, if you invested that $50,000 in the S&P 500 rate of return, let's say long-term 10% rate of return, that would grow to $800,000 roughly at age 62. Now, Scott, let me make sure that the compliance people are all happy. 10% is not a guaranteed rate of return. That is the average long-term rate of return of the S&P 500 in a general sense. That is not any particular account, and you can't directly invest in the S&P 500. So what we're talking about here is very hypothetical.
Right.
But it is the way that equities can work for you potentially if you think about what you're trying to do here. And your objective should be, I would think, to fulfill the wishes of your parents. And if your parents want you to be financially independent or wanted you to be financially secure, then investing this money and leaving it alone for a long period of time could pay huge dividends for you as time goes on. I think as far as where the money is at right now, I think the question that I would ask Caitlin is, do you have an advisor of your own? If that's the case, then move the money to that advisor. If you don't have an advisor of your own, then I would suggest that you go ahead and seek out an advisor. The advisor that your parents used may or may not be the right fit for you. There's a lot of things that we could get into, Scott, as far as working with an advisor is concerned, but you have to be able to like that person, trust that person, and believe that person. If you can do those three things, then you've got a relationship that you can have for an extended period of time with that advisor, and they can help you with that goal of getting to financial independence.